Work on your personality. Technical skills won't be enough. They're going to turn your tasks into automated workflows. Be likable to get to be the one who implements and oversees the workflow, answering for the end result. All the bands we're going to discuss today have one thing in common. They have personality. Welcome back to Death Metal Pug. Today we're broadcasting from Death Metal Pug headquarters on the 666th floor of Tower B on the Death Metal Pug campus. I want to be a rock star when I grow up. The purpose of this is to have fun and talk about music. If for some reason we can help out your band, project, or business, please reach out to us at deathmetalpug@gmail.com. I'd like to thank Roman V for being on last week's episode. Dude, are you guys trying to kill me? We're growing and let's keep this channel to cool folks only. It's funny, we get like as many shares as we get like likes per our analytics data per my producer, which I think means we're being spread around a lot and not just getting like junky clicks and likes and crap like that. With that said, we don't want any trouble. There's a low ceiling for extreme music subscribers, and we would like make the exact same videos if we had like 5 people watching us versus what we have watching us. For the first 6 months, I didn't think any real people actually watch this. I know some channels pander to you by like asking for questions and stuff, but we don't care. Like, not in a J-Dog, I'm gonna talk for 10 minutes to try and convince you that I don't care kind of way, but in a real like, we don't care kind of way. We're not in this to make money. We've not monetized the channel, nor have we taken Temu up on the opportunity to sell like junk on our channel. We've got some albums that we think are worth checking out. We would have liked to got to some of these sooner, but Death Metal Pug are real people who have like real stuff going on sometimes. So herein lies my considered reflections on recent albums and stuff. Exhumed released Red Asphalt February 20th, 2026. Exhumed formed in 1990 in San Jose, California, when founder Matt Harvey was only 15 years old. From the beginning, the band was steeped in the influence of Carcass, Impetigo, Repulsion, and Terrorizer. Throughout the early 90s, they became a staple of the underground tape trading scene, releasing a large number of demos and splits. Those early recordings leaned heavily into raw, Carcass-style gore grind, complete with medical pathology themes and deliberately filthy production and buzzy guitar sounds. Their 1998 debut full-length gore metal marked a turning point. The album fused death metal and grindcore into a more defined death grind or self-proclaimed gore metal sound that would become Exhumed's signature. Harvey said that this was the record where the band finally solidified its vision, despite the notoriously rough production. The recording process was chaotic. Several tracks were lost when producer James Murphy, then battling brain cancer, was acting erratically and was evicted from his studio. There's got to be more to that story. You couldn't find any clarification or anything on that? I say Exhumed's gore metal album is kind of infamous, and it's like B-movie type of sound for and feel for like metal fans. The cover is hilariously homemade. In the year 2000, Exhumed followed up with the album Slaughter Cult, a record Harvey described as their most direct, brutal, and live sounding. Notably, the band intentionally avoided double bass to stand apart on their contemporary death metal trends at the time. I did pull this album out of my pull this Exhumed Slaughter Cult album out of my collection. So If we take a look at it, it's got like a fold here. And this would have been the inside and then the back of the CD. But the reason I'm showing this to you was it's CD itself. This was a saw blade style CD. This didn't always work in certain CD players and such at the time. It would kind of skip around and stuff, but it was kind of a neat idea to have it as a saw blade. This era of Slaughter Cult really saw a lot of growth for Exhumed. Multiple US tours, their first major like European tour, and they started getting appearances at the big festivals and stuff too. Their third album, 2003's Anatomy is Destiny, it introduced a more sophisticated arrangements and productions than in the past, and this signaled like a shift to a more polished like death metal style approach. This one is great and often kind of overlooked by the prior two albums. After years of heavy touring and lineup instability, Exhumed went on hiatus in 2005. Harvey remained the band's core creative force, and in 2010, Exhumed officially reformed. Matt Harvey is the lone consistent member of this band since the origin. With that said, Red Asphalt is the third album with a consistent lineup, and that hasn't happened before. Since what I'll call like Exhumed's modern era, Exhumed from 2011 till today, they've released 6 albums, including Red Asphalt. And I gotta say, I like Red Asphalt a lot. Like more than any Exhumed album in a while. Most Exhumed albums are kind of like listen a few times and then that's it. But this one I see staying around for a while in my listening rotation. Longtime fans might get a little fussy with its modern production. In the past, this was done accidentally or on purpose, but this one seems like it strikes like a nice balance. It does not sound like shit though. It sounded like the best, I'd say, like most awesome, like driving around in the car. I heard it when it came out, like that Friday it came out, and just really liked jamming it. Something about the timing of that just caught my mood right. It's just death metal. It's stripped away most of its like grindy background days. So I would call Red Asphalt like a true, like, you know, just death metal album. This album's gore-obsessed lyrics. Now, the lyrical themes on this one are around auto accidents. Take note the still like low budget looking album cover, as the car accident theme is consistent throughout the whole album, kind of like a concept album with a collection of like car wreck ideas. The whole album feels like a parade of catastrophic endings, songs about bodies being chewed up by the asphalt, travelers meeting their demise in flaming wrecks, or a speeding car turning a person into a smear of ruined, squished humanity. People say our show is a car crash. A sense of humor between the blood and guts still remains here, I think. Despite the real-life seriousness of car crashes, this album is fun. Its looseness is part of the appeal here, I think. There's even a song about getting really excited over car crashes called Symphorophilia. This song is for the guy who watches demolition derbies, rooting for the removal of helmets with the head still inside. This album is for the woman who doesn't rubberneck at car crashes. She brings popcorn and grades them like Olympic divers. This album is for the kind of person who sees 2 shopping carts full of meat collide in the parking lot and whispers, "Finally, kinky art." Again, Harvey remains the sole consistent member of this band, anchoring the band's vision across the decades with his guitar and vocals. I like Harvey's Jeff Walker style vocals the best. They're done really well, especially on this album, I thought. I've seen Exhumed a few times, as I'm sure you have. They toured constantly in the modern era with like tons of bands. Once I started this album, I did not want it to stop. It hooked me. check out Exhumed's album, Red Asphalt. Converge released Love Is Not Enough February 13th, 2025. I really expected to pop up in here and like completely glaze the Worm album, but as it turns out, I listened to Converge more than Worm the last few weeks. This new one is a bit of a return to form. The last album, Blood Moon, shared with Chelsea a Wolf, was one of those like highly acclaimed albums that came out in 2021 that you never listened to again. It was just a mess of stuff, artsy, and not really why I listened to Converge. Despite releasing a junky ambient one-track album over COVID, Converge have always maintained cool status. Going back to even the 90s actually, they've always maintained a bit of like what felt like an artsy side to them. I think this one has real buzz because it's like a real metal album and not like a spoken word, noise, or like weird poetry or something. Weird Poetry was the name of my college alt-rock band. This Converge record sounds great. The opening title track is awesome, obviously. It's a screaming metal song right up my timeless alley. The guitarist, right, Kurt Ballou, probably made this thing. He's made a ton of metal albums, and he's like one of the greatest of all time in the genre, right? They continue their tradition of raging openers, plus those toms mixed in with that opening riff are just killer. Song 2, Bad Faith, will get the big riff energy radars up. That opening main riff is just filthy. I estimate I've heard probably 70% of all metal music, which I estimate is at least 50% more than most metal fans, new or old. But I gotta tell you, I have not spent a ton of time with Converge together due to where I was in my life between like the years 2001 to 2004. They were my least productive years of my metal journey. I didn't step out of metal or anything like that. I just got busy with like big life moments. And outside of Jane Doe, I never really caught up with all of their albums. But Jane Doe could not be ignored though. By 2004, like everybody knew about that album, right? I think the opening track, Love Is Not Enough, does a good job finding those old like Jane Doe vibes for us old guys. If Jane Doe was made today, the storyline would be the guy found his partner's Hinge profile messages. The album varies in the second half a little bit more with like more pronounced audible like bass licks to it really. The vocals do something that's often missed in like death metal, doom, and certain types of modern metal in that they get savage at times. People in present years have said like metal lacks something, and that something to me is vicious vocals that sound like out of control or unhinged. The constant like cavernous growls just don't have that like dynamic feel to them. I think of that Herubium album that came out last year. Good riffs and patterns and music and everything, but just boring vocals overall in its sameness, I'll say. They're executed well, but they lack like an impromptu urgency to them that make it feel not heartfelt, you know, but that feels more backgroundy when they do that. The best surprise on this Converge album is the fact that nothing is too surprising here. It's just good Converge riffs. Like on the track Force Meets Presence, that 2-minute song will destroy live. And it doesn't get weird. It's a metal album throughout, which is why I think peeps are all like geeked up about it. Now, I've seen Converge, but not until late in their career. The one and only time that I've seen Converge was in 2002 when they opened up for Meshuggah. I arrived a little late to that show, and it took me a while to like kind of get up front to kind of see everything, because it was like a bigger place than I was kind of accustomed to. And they did play a metal set that night. Check out Converge's album, Love Is Not Enough. My friend at work was like, hey, you have tight pants and like cardigans. You should like this. It was the band Deaf Heaven's album, Sun, Bat, her. I've historically liked bands with the word deaf in their name, like Deftones or Def Leppard, but this is not Rock of Ages. Don't let the pretty pink album cover fool you. There are nasty sounds inside of this. Guitars start out, and I think I'm getting like Smashing Pumpkin vibes, but then the rhythm section joins in, and it just sounds like a flat tire, and then there's like a pretty melody layered on top of it all for some reason. Then the vocals come in, and the vocals are like the pitch of a dog whistle, loud and screamy. I texted my friend, I'm like, WTF? And he was like, it's shoe glaze black metal. I texted back, I'm like, I don't care what the band looks like, but it sounds like shoe polish and rocks being put in a blender on high speed. A lot of the drumming on this album is so fast and random. It's like every drum being hit at the same time. It sounds like the drummer is constantly swatting away like thousands of bees. Between the chaos, there are like these serene, shimmering interludes that made me think like, oh my gosh, my headphones are apologizing for what just happened. It's like the album keeps handing you a warm towel after throwing you down a flight of emotional stairs. I like the piano songs best, but then it's back to a mix of TV, static, and 10 microwaves going at the same time. Then after like all the songs are over, I'm just like, forget this, I'm getting under a warm blanket. 0 stars. Converge doesn't play in odd time signatures. Time signatures play in odd converges. A metronome tried to keep up with Ben Kohler. It is now a wind chime. Kurt Ballou doesn't produce albums. He forges them in a New England hardware store at 3 a.m. with a single fluorescent light flickering above. Converge fans don't mosh. They form a collaborative, interpretive geometry problem. Listening to Converge is like being punched in the soul by someone who really wants you to grow as a person. Male audiences are being disproportionately targeted for gambling apps. This is going to create a huge problem in the future. 15 years from now, this will be a Netflix documentary. Please be careful with online or app gambling and sports betting. They will win, not you. Warm released Necropalace February 13th, 2026. I didn't realize how much the metal community was into this band until the upcoming release of this album. I was really looking forward to this as well. I've spoken with admiration about their EP Blue Nothing, and I like the Worm side of that Dream Unending split that they have. A well-regarded guitarist has joined Worm. It's Septentrion, and he was there partially for part of Blue Nothing, and he was fully involved in this Necropalace album. Necromancer, the main Worm guy, worked solo prior. I think he's from Florida, as those first albums were equated to, or called like Florida Swampy Doom Metal or something like that. Regarding this new album, I was not immediately impressed. And then I remembered with them or him that like, that's happened for most of the music from Worm. I've only been immediately in love with the Blue Nothing album. The others took some time. And I'm not really like a Doom guy, so I don't go back to like those first 2 albums all that much, and I don't go really back to that Gloomlord album like at all. It's just not a kind of like music that, you know, I hedonistically like to listen to a bunch. I didn't even like that Sea of Sorrow song that was on that Dream Unending split, but now it's on like my revered Mow the Yard playlist. We're probably going to look back on February as a big month when it comes year-end list time. So the album hasn't clicked yet with me. I know in the media we're supposed to like pick a side, like it's the best thing ever, it's the worst thing ever kind of thing, and yell about it and create like a whole big kermuffle, if you will. But standing here today, like I could go either way, and that hasn't happened to me in a while. If this wasn't Worm, I gotta be honest, I probably would have already given up on this album. I've heard it's referred to as symphonic black metal, and admittedly, I don't think I've spent too much time there in that kind of genre. I mean, in this whole like vampire on the throne next to a space dragon kind of genre. It's like 500 guitars layered at once on this thing. Some of them are heavy and some of them are clean, and that's not unusual to like Worm, I guess I'll say. And then there's like a bunch of synths layered over the album to different degrees on this thing as well. It's still got like his giant barky gutturals that he does here. The whole thing is 7 songs, 63 minutes of music, and it makes it a little difficult to get through in one setting, at least for me so far. Honestly, it could end up being my #1 album of the year, like most listened to it. And so sorry for like the bad radio folks in how this is kind of presented, but I also think it could also be like something that I don't pick up again. Let's wait and see. I was really looking forward to this one, but you should check out Worm's Necro Palace. Jam shirt this week is Maul. That's all I got. He didn't send a story or info or anything. I think he just took the shirt off he had on and texted it over to me. Eye of Purgatory released Darkborn, or was it Darkborn released Eye of Purgatory? February 13, 2026. I found myself listening to this more than I thought the first time I heard it. Smooth death metal. I got strong Benediction vibes from this, but don't call me a Benny expert. It's like a less thrashy, more modernish death metal styled Benediction, I'd say. It's the smoothest. It reminds me of like bolt thrower riffs or music and how it kind of like flows together nicely. It's not bolt thrower, it's not Benediction, but how they have like a smoothness to the music. I really found it like kind of clicked with me. Check out Eye of Purgatory, Darkborn. By the time this is up, I will have attended this show. That's it!